Hi everyone! So, Sonic's 32nd anniversary has passed, giving us a brand new Sonic Central with a few new announcements, more info on upcoming games, and what a lot of definitely smart people are calling a tease for a Sonic Heroes remake. But most importantly of all is the release of Sonic Frontiers Update 2, which gave us a lot more. There's a handful of subtle but really great changes to go over, which I'll also tell you how to enable or unlock, as ironically, nothing is on by default here. Also, data miners have taken a peep into the files of this update and found models and animations from the new playable characters in Update 3, as well as a few lines of dialogue in the code that give hints about the plot of Update 3's new story without making it clear who's giving what dialogue. Now don't worry, we won't be discussing that at all in this video since it is full of spoilers and details are only beginning to release, so there isn't really much to cover yet. But when I eventually do cover it, I'll put a giant spoiler warning and make it very clear if that's something you don't want to see. I would never want to hurt and betray my loyal raccoon subscribers like that. So I'll only briefly touch on the data mine models and leaks with no spoilers in this video. And there's so much that's just happened in the past few days alone to cover that I definitely have my work cut out for me today. But first, you know the drill. Drop a like, it helps the video. Double check your sub because YouTube just randomly be unsubbing, and join memberships. It's $7 buckaroos, $1 less than Twitter Blue, and let's get into this news. Let's go!
Hey, yo, it's the Sonic Show.
Now, we'll quickly recap the Sonic Central stuff at the end, and why the intellectuals of the world are raving about Sega teasing a Sonic Heroes remake. Something I think everyone wants, because if you love Heroes, a remake is an obvious W, and if you hate it, then a remake from the ground up could fix the controls and all the things people hate about Forces. So it's really a win-win. But obviously, before we get into all of that, I want to cover Sonic Frontiers Update 2, as these updates are the topic I've been hyping up for a countless amount of videos now. So after playing and going through it extensively, does it live up to the hype? Well, absolutely yes. It has everything Kishimoto's been talking about Update 2 having, as well as New Game Plus, a lot more to the birthday mode than we initially thought, with new platforming sections and more. And I think a lot of people are missing a lot of the best changes because they're either turned off by default or you have to unlock them. So the first big change I want to cover is one I've seen next to nobody talking about, but yet completely changes the way the entire game plays. Now, it's probably missed because since it was only just added in this update, it's the very last option in your settings, which is called Maintain Boost during a jump, which, having your jump not disrupt your momentum alone, changes how moving around feels, and the sudden stop is sometimes preferable for platforming sections, but I'd much rather have this adventure-style momentum at least as an option, because I genuinely think this one little change greatly improves Frontier's handling as a whole, and the only further change I would want from this is for them to update the tutorial so the game asks you your preference after completing it, because I guarantee you, most people did not even know this was an option. With these changes Sonic Team is making to test out adventure-styled physics, this leads us to the one everyone wants to talk about, the Spin Dash. Now, I actually do think it's great this is here, but there are two awful aspects about it that we have to address first. So, to actually unlock the Spin Dash, you're going to have to complete every action chain stage across every island with an S rank, which there are 40 of in total. Now, this alone is pretty rough, but what's worse is that because of this, you can't unlock it until you beat the game, in which there's not much left to do. However, Sonic Team thought of this problem and added New Game Plus, which there's a secret special reward for 100%ing all of the islands. Unclear if it has to be New Game Plus or the original because it was found by a data miner who we respect and wants to keep their info private to avoid spoilers, and this is going to be a pretty big spoiler. So all I'll say is there's some epic big reward that people will go crazy for, and I'll put that info in my data mine video with huge spoiler warnings all over it so people can choose whether they want to watch it or not. And people are getting real mad at me for that. You know, if you choose to watch it, that's your fault. I'm not the type of guy that puts spoilers in thumbnails. I've never done that before. You can even go back. But back to the Spin Dash. If you're on PC, there's a mod to unlock the Spin Dash from any point, and I posted it on my Twitter. YouTube doesn't like the modding website links for some reason, so I just posted it there. And while this obviously isn't going to work on console, which across all platforms is a majority of the players, I'm still really glad we have it, and it's at least a step in the right direction for testing adventure physics, which is ultimately the whole point of Sonic Team adding it in this update. Now, the second part of the Spin Dash that people are upset about is the common rhetoric that it's essentially the same as the Boost or Drop Dash, or that it's no different from the one in Lost World. And while this might seem to be the case, these people are missing a huge part of this update. And I'm not saying they're wrong or being degrading, but I mean they're literally missing it. If you don't turn on the setting we covered earlier to switch on the momentum whenever you jump or stop, then yeah, the Spin Dash doesn't control much like the adventure one we all know and love. But once you turn this on, you're able to do all sorts of trick shots and ramps with it that really give you a sense of freedom when controlling Sonic. I'm seeing all these videos of people using it without any mods, like this one Blue Vivacity made, and it's clearly truly a game changer. Without it, you're missing a huge part of the experience, which is why I wish the game did a better job at letting you know this is even a new setting. Like, even on the screen, it just acts like it's enabled. No, it's not. This also isn't the only setting and option to go over and change, as the battle camera and a couple others are also pretty important, but this is definitely the first one I'd change if you play the update. Now, I quickly want to cover the Sonic's birthday features, because this is easily the most slept on. I know it seems like it just adds balloons, an outfit for Sonic and his Coco, some cool new music, and a horrifically bad UI that you have to see at all times. But there's also challenges and platforming sections added, which some won't like as they're definitely harder than most in the game, as well as many requiring you to move slowly. But it's bonus birthday content, so if they want to make it unconventional and harder than the rest, then I really don't mind at all, and I think adding more optional difficulty to Frontiers, like they've been doing, is awesome, and I really hope they continue and add more stuff like this in Update 3, which is a perfect segue, as that's what I want to quickly touch on next. So without going into spoilers, we already know from the roadmap that the third update will include, quote, playable characters and new story. And next to it has the picture of Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, with Sage on the opposite side glowing in her villain colors. Well, now we have models and animations of those three characters being playable in the third update, and yeah, they look exactly like you'd expect. We've seen these characters before, so you can imagine their models. How they play, we don't know, as while that info is all here, it's still too early for anyone to compile it together and make the test files available. And there's only one surprise, but like you'd expect, we know Tails flies and all the characters have their respective playable abilities. The only one that I thought was a little odd is Amy has her tarot cards, which is like the new thing. I understand that. But instead of magical abilities, she just hits them with them. The tarot cards get big and she hits people with the card. And I'm like, why at that point, why not just give her hammer? And this is all coming from Blue, but Tails has a weapon called the Psy Blaster that many people are confused about. And it sounds like the blaster he had as a toy in Sonic Movie 2, which we thought his tablet would transform into, but never actually did. And Knuckles will have his drill punch, which when he punches, his arm turns into a different model, or at least that's how it appears. And this is great because we thought at least Amy and most of the others would be mostly just reskinned Sonic, but it seems like there's going to be a lot of unique things for these characters to do, even if they have their abilities. They're not just going to be running around in Sonic's world using it. It seems like there will be character-specific stuff to do, which excites me a lot. It reminds me of a certain format. I don't know, something maybe adventurous. I also want to quickly cover a bunch of the other changes from Update 2 that most of you probably didn't notice. The first being, Kishimoto actually did look out for all the people complaining about the tower on the 4th island, and now the difficulty's been lowered if you're on easy mode. I don't really know what that means. Maybe they added like bumper rails, less platforming, I don't know. There's new songs added to the jukebox to go around and find, and then the battle skill camera, which I didn't cover much earlier, but when you get taken out of the moment, it was one of the most annoying things about Frontiers, so that's an awesome fix to see. They also made a new option so that whenever you boost in cyberspace, it doesn't do that weird distorted effect where it makes the music sound pretty bad and has a flanger on it. I'm not a fan of it, so I really like this new option. So it's small, but it's a great change that I saw a lot of people complain about when making my over 12 hours of Frontiers reviews video. And with all these small changes, and this only being the first of half of them, there's a lot in this update to fundamentally change how the game plays. And there will not only be more to come in Update 3, but more importantly, this shows the direction and techniques they're trying out with the intention to expand into a fully fledged, new, adventure-styled game with a modern take on the format and controls. Something I think everyone's excited for. I don't even think I have to ask. Now, I'll quickly recap Sonic Central and go into the Sonic Heroes Remake cope, as it's just as ridiculous as it is realistic, which kind of worries me. So, to speedrun the Sonic Central announcements, Sonic Origins Plus got released. The reception of that will probably get its own video because it spawned like 5 different dramas in itself. Sonic Speed Simulator for Roblox got an update, but I also hear there's a boycott and some drama about that game too. I'm just not super into Roblox myself, so I don't know much. There's new episodes of Sonic Prime coming July 13th, so less than a month from now, and I didn't get copyright claimed for the first time ever. Thank you, Netflix. Sonic Dash has been repackaged as a spin-off app by Amazon, Apple, and now Netflix, who has their own version on their exclusive app service. I bet you didn't know about that. I talked about it before. It's kind of cool. Next, Super Silver and Dragon Hunter Lancelot skins have been added to Force's Speed Battle and Dash, while Sonic Dash 2 is seemingly left to rot in the sun. That game will never get an update again. They said bye-bye. Sonic will be in Samba de Amigo, something we already knew, but it's coming to VR. I guess that's kind of cool. The Sonic Symphony has announced the locations and dates of the new tour, and there's nothing in Florida. However, I recently moved states, and there is something literally just a few minute drive for me, so I'm pretty amped about that. At the Central, they also announced a bunch of merch and physical items that I'm not going to waste any time going one by one over. However, something cool they did show off was a Sonic the Hedgehog themed restaurant that's going to pop up at San Diego Comic-Con in just a couple weeks away. That actually sounds really cool. I'm not going to Comic-Con, but maybe I will now. They showed off a trailer for the Lego Sonic playset, which may or may not be one of the best trailers in a long time. Seriously, I'm not a huge Lego guy or anything, but everything this company does is just so high quality, it's insane. Next, Otani and Izuka sat down to talk about Fang the Sniper in Sonic Superstars, which, if you notice, there's a particular face missing here. Who is one of these original founders of Sonic that's missing here? Geez, I wonder who. But you'll be shocked when you meet the new talent Sega brought on. Get in here, Eugene Nottingham. They next showed off the Lego Eggman skin you get from pre-ordering Sonic Superstars, which inadvertently also shows off the Lego Sonic skin. And we already have seen a handful of skins, so we knew this was going to be a thing. But this just cements it even further, and it's one of the most exciting parts about Superstars to me. I'm a little cautious after Frontiers also had us thinking unlockable cosmetics would be a big part of the game, and it turned out to be basically absent. Next, my greatest rival and wannabe Sonic tuber, Tails Tube, who will always be a Tails tuber, has announced a return for more episodes, which we all know Sonic is better than Tails, so honestly, I'm not even too interested. Sonic show over Tails Tube, am I wrong? It's a joke, I know it's not actual competition, but my audience can't take jokes. However, we have to stop for a second on this Tails Tube announcement, because this is where everyone is saying Sega is hinting at and teasing a Sonic Heroes remake. The reason for this is because they're educating new audiences and fans on the story of Heroes, and they think that means Sega's working on a remake of it. However, with them explaining Neo Metal Sonic, one of the cooler twists next to Metal Overlord, then I don't really think they'd want to be pushing twists and spoilers for a game they're actively working on. Now, do I think these random pop-ups are meaningless? No, not at all. The way they're so specifically chosen are either hints at the next mainline game or red herrings to throw us off. We see all this Amy and Cream footage from various titles on the left, and on the right screen is Neo Metal and a bunch of other enemies from other Sonic titles. There's also the glitch sequence with the Heroes cutscene, which could be seen as the biggest quote-unquote hint at a remake. I don't know, it doesn't look that good. I do think it looks better than the original quality, but for all we know, it's just the best quality rip available. I mean, they are internal at Sega after all. They have all the files. However, I'm not going to write it off. It is possible, like many are speculating, there actually is a Sonic Heroes remake, a game that is very marketable with all its characters and is often slept on in my books. However, if that's the case, we already know Sonic Team is working on a bunch of titles right now, with the next mainline game and Sonic Superstars, which technically, I mean, it's made by RSS, but Sonic Team is like overseeing it. But given how Sonic Colors Ultimate was done quite terribly by Blind Squirrel, if they're the ones behind a Sonic Heroes remake or remaster in that case, then is that something we even really want? I mean, maybe, honestly, maybe that I still would want it since it's not available anywhere. But I don't know, it's something to think about. Another thing to keep in mind about this whole Sonic Heroes remake stuff is even though Tails Tube is Sega and technically official Sonic stuff, you have to take it with a grain of salt. After the purple-haired girl turned out to have zero appearance in Frontiers and was a red herring to throw us off, these are the last people I trust for reliable info, especially since the whole goal of the social team is to throw people off and keep them guessing wrong to build hype. And don't get me wrong, that's fun and all, and I respect it. But when it comes to actual news about the next mainline game, Sega trying to obscure information is something we do have to keep in mind. So in terms of a Sonic Heroes remake, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Regardless of that, this definitely isn't proof of either one. And with that, the next video I'll likely make is the spoiler video. You don't have to watch it, but you can. I mean, honestly, it's not much of a spoiler. It's not a Last of Us 2 leak. It's just a couple lines of dialogue. It's really not a big deal. Like, we don't even know what dialogue is coming from what character. We don't even know who's there. But that's all for today. Lots of love. Join membership. Give me money. God, I'm so poor. I need it. I'm living in a cardboard box, man. It's been rough. And peace. Peace!
Just call me.